to just meet, but
Live streaming is on.
all right, we are. Who has a coffee, first of all? No? Damn it. Justin doesn't even have one with a straw today.
Direct inject.
All right. Got disappointed there for a second.
He likes the benefit, not the taste.
So let's do a kind of a check-in here first before we go back into the topics. Justin, remember where we were because we already started a good conversation here. How's everyone feeling? I know this is kind of like such a silly question, but I don't know for what reason. I think it's because we just started our YouTube channel, actually. I'm just very euphoric right now. I'm super hyped.
You're what right now?
Super hyped.
About what, coStarting in general or just life?
I think life. Like, did you see in the second cohort, Chap, he has the stress level in his KPIs, which I thought was quite clever. And I kind of want to, I mean, just for myself, like check in with myself every now and then, And yesterday I was a little bit down. I had a call with a good friend and mentor of mine, and she kind of gave me the reality check and said, "What the fuck are you doing, man? Like, are you just getting yourself into your comfort zone with these cohorts and all of this? This is not what you were pitching me with what coStarting is, right? Like, are you still working on the big idea?" And she was nicer than what I'm paraphrasing right now, but and that's of course why I value her advice, because she's not the yes man, right? Like, she did not get on a call to reaffirm me on the things I'm doing. Now she's asking me critically. It's like, what are you like? Are you working on the bigger picture, or did you change what you want to work on, right? And I really had to reflect on that all night, kind of, and still am, and trying to figure out if what I'm doing is still on track, or if I'm getting into something which comes natural to me, and doubling down on these cohorts and almost building like an accelerator type thing. So that put me a little down yesterday, but now today, in the true spirit of the launch track cohorts, we just launched something new, and that's always fucking fantastic. Yeah. So that's kind of my check-in here. If anyone else has reflection on their lives like this.
Reflections.
Well, I'd say
Yeah,
I'm not
too,
as high as you, but I'm feeling positive and motivated.
That's good. That's good.
I'm gonna say, has anybody used any of those trackers or those platforms to where you record your mood and outlook and whatnot each day, and kind of not track the progress, but track the differences each day? And I think they're essentially mood trackers, right? Where you just put in some key pieces of information and see what could be an identifier of a stressor, or why your mood has an influx or whatnot.
I haven't used one of those.
Me neither. I'm not good at that, like data entry.
Yeah, me either. I've never used one either. I've just seen them.
Yeah.
I figured that you would enjoy putting in your very positive feeling today.
Yeah, but it gets skewed, right? Because you then, like, when you're feeling great, you're like, all right, I'm gonna track my how I'm feeling today, and then you never track the down days.
Well,
so
that's like, so it's a negative on those days. It's a
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Implicitly, if there's no entry, let's just assume it was a shitty day. True. Cool. All right. So Z, that's why I said, Justin, remember where we were. Where were we? I don't remember.
We started talking about the no-code platforms and using services like Bubble and just building out different ideas quickly that way. Or I guess, so we're all kind of on the same page there too. We know what Bubble is, and probably you've done a starter project, but haven't been able to scratch below the surface or build anything out in them yet.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking, and I'm struggling with this, right? Because like you were saying, there is often the barrier that these tools are great. And sometimes, depending on how they built their ecosystem, the plugins are expensive, and you run pretty quickly into all of these paywalls where if you want the functionality quickly, the bills are racking up pretty quick.
Right, and of course, they're typically recurring charges for the licensing, not just a one-off.
Right, because everyone wants that MRR, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I struggle with that because, especially as a coder, you know you could kind of do it yourself, but you also know you shouldn't build everything yourself. And I think it's like difficult to make the decision, when do you buy versus when do you build, or how long do you buy until you build maybe your custom, or even what tools you're getting into, right? Like certain tools are more commitment and you're locked in for a little while. Like, I mean, Bubble, you can't export that, right? And then eventually go from there. There's other tools where you might be able to, like, what was that, UI Kitten? No. Remember in the beginning of the cohort, I used this one tool to mock something up. UI Bakery, which is interesting because they actually give you the option to export an Angular project. But then you have like code which you can't read basically in the end, right? And are you gonna build on top of that code custom? I don't know. I doubt it, kind of. So it's a very strange world between no code, low code, and all code.
Yeah.
Right. Because as it typically begins too, like if you weren't using Card, you could implement what you've done so far in coStarting with Bubble fairly easily. But then as you continue to grow it and you want to automate certain things, it's like, well, now, do I continue committing to this resource or to this platform, or move off of it? And now I'm going to have to spend twice as much time to rebuild it from scratch and get the current functionality, or start paying a little bit of money here, even while there's no possible revenue coming in. So I'm now out of pocket to continue building with what you started with.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like the same situation I started with as well with Zojo, which was just something I was familiar with, the whole development environment, and it makes it very easy for me to pick up and start building applications with. But then the same thing as well, the closed ecosystem, their plugins are all paid and commercialized with license fees. And then it's like, well, I could just build natively if I wanted to build, with Windows or Mac OS, and all those tools are free. Visual Studio and Xcode on a Mac are all free, but just a higher learning curve and a bit more upfront work, I feel like. So it's, if I have an idea, I could literally implement a proof of concept in hours, but then be tied into that platform. It's definitely not exportable. You can't move the project over to something else once you begin in Zojo.
Right. But then again, though, having the proof of concept is much more important, like especially in the beginning, right? Because like I always say, that likely no one's ever going to use your project. If we're realistic, right? Like 9 out of 10 fail. We know all of the statistics. So the more in time and money you put in, the more you lose, right? And then you have the sunk cost factor. So it might be better to just say, okay, well, it's fine. I'm going to pay $50 a month for it, but I'm going to set myself a 3-month limit. And if I can't get to X threshold, I'm going to consider it failed, or I need to pivot, or I need to do something before, investing 6 months of my time. Yeah. So I think building it quick certainly has its merits. And, even with coStarting, excuse me, it's not, I haven't proven any business models yet, right? Like, I think we're getting to that point now soon, but there isn't any money coming in. So I always struggle with that. Like, this is an interesting talking point yesterday on my call with my advisor too, where, as startups or early founders, we always try to be super scrappy. And I think that needs to be the case. But there is the other league of founders who just butter in and just know, like, okay, I need to spend money to make money kind of mentality. And they just build it up really quickly, spend on branding, spend on marketing, risk much more, but also have potentially much more payoff quickly, right? And again, I don't know, there's probably not, it's not either or. I think for me, I let it drive, my personality drive it basically. And I'm more on the scrappy side. How you guys feel about that?
I agree with that about just getting something out there right away, right? Like you said, if there's a way to develop much quicker and easier, you're much more in an environment to be able to start then seeing, okay, is this something that's worthwhile, or what avenue should I go, rather than worrying too much up front about continuing to build. Kind of like the whole concept of why the coStarting cohort began, right? Is to actually launch, not sit there and continue working, and then having it sit on the back burner. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, like I like being scrappy, but then again having it have the potential of it looks good, you know, it looks like it's scaling for you. And obviously you can only scale so much with like Bubble, which I haven't even really looked into, like how far can you get, you know, until you have to rebuild that on like a regular database and stuff like that, you know. So that's something.
Yeah, I think it's pretty scalable. The question is, when does the cost explode? Probably, right?
Yeah.
Just like with any of those tools, Airtable. I mean, even Firebase, right? Like Firebase was like the backend as a service kind of grandfather here, I think. And I still love that. I still use it all the time. Mm-hmm. But I'm always scared that once it scales, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, like Google Maps. Google Maps API is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then again, right? Like here I am sitting having launch anxiety about the scalability problems of a hypothetical idea.
Yeah.
Is on.
So it's just like you just gotta like get out of your own head, just do a thing.
Right.
You're worrying about the hopeful success before there's been any success.
Right.
That's tough because you want to baby it, you know, and you want to make sure it happens for you. But you gotta get out. Everyone has to get out of that mentality.
Yeah. Hi, Ramona.
Hey, hi.
So you're back.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'm trying to figure out the video. Oh, there it is. Hey, I'm gonna have to jump off shortly. I just finished a call and I've got about 15 maybe minutes. Actually, my next call's at 12:30. So not even that, just about 20 minutes or whatever. I just wanted to jump on and say hi.
Yeah, cool. Welcome. How's it going?
Good. What are you guys discussing? It sounds like
we're just talking about no-code tools. Yeah, no-code tools. The struggle of what to decide, what to use, when to use it, those kinds of things. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we talked on Twitter a bit, but give everyone else an intro.
Yeah, so I'm out of Detroit, Michigan. I develop a bunch of stuff. We have an enterprise software for the insurtech industry, and that is absolutely nothing low code. I'd like to get to a point where we can use some lower code tools in there just to kind of prove that I was like one of the first people in the market to do it. But it's super complicated software with a lot of like database tabling. And so we're having some conversations right now with the guys that developed Plant the App to see if there's a way that we can do some cool stuff in there. A little bit of an expensive solution though. So, I mean, we really have to be like full throttle about it if we're going to do it. And then on the other side of it, I mentor, coach, and teach some low code or lower code tools. We do a lot with different young ladies in the coding atmosphere. We mentor startups. We're doing a couple this year with people that are interested in building consumer-facing solutions that are a little bit different than what we do. Like our focus is typically on business to business, but we do have another fintech solution that is consumer-driven that we're doing as well. So not 100% completely on the business side, but for the most part in the insurtech and fintech space, we typically play in those reins. And then anything that we do in lower code, I would say, you know, there's so many different things that are low code out there, like Squarespace is low code, right? So it depends on what platform you're trying to develop in, but we do things in Bubble and Adalo. We build a couple Pages and Softer, which is just a newer platform that was released by Miriam and her group. And I think with anything in this space, with these platforms that are newer, when they get released, they might be behind the game until they get some major funding in place and until they kind of keep up with the marketplace. So a lot of times, even though we have great ideas and great startups that we can work with, a lot of the lower to no code tool spaces don't have enough open source possibilities there. So like I build AI, and one good example is the only one that we could probably hypothetically plug our AI into right now is Bubble. And that's because there's a lot of open source attributes there, but they've also been doing this for quite some time now. So, they've got those relationships down, and that makes more sense. So, but yeah, so that's a bit of a quick background on me.
Awesome. Quite a bit of stuff going on.
I was going to say, I think that's a great point too, that some don't think of, is if you pick a low code or no code environment as well, if it's not well known like Bubble that has funding and is backed as well, then what's to say you're choosing to develop your idea in this, essentially in this startup, and who's to say in a closed source environment, and now 6 months down the road, they don't exist anymore and starting over.
Well, not just about not existing, it's that they don't have enough attrition in the market, enough tool set, enough user interface to understand what direction their platform should go in the future of open source. So, and the other example is if you're trying to build a lean startup and you're trying to pay for an AI partnership, but you don't have paying users, then you're not really able to bootstrap your own company. So there's a lot of ways to stay lean, but if you're using these platforms where you have a platform monthly fee, and then they either have like a texting or an AI service attached to it, but it's another $49 or something a month, and you're trying to bootstrap companies, we have we have young startup founders that come to us as mentors, and we purposefully sometimes steer them away from adding all the bells and whistles onto their application and just starting with a very lean MVP on purpose, just so they can continue to say, hey, we bootstrapped, look what we could do with your help, right? But they can't really get there if they're not acquiring a lot of paid users. But the other side of it too is not so much of a concern that those platforms are going to go out of business. It's that if you look at how long it took Bubble to get to where it's at today, we're talking about 7 or 8 years, right? So things are happening quicker now. Like I'm seeing updates on MakersPad all the time, and just updates in our lower code groups where everybody's like, look at our next release, look what's coming next, because they're listening to what the makers in the market are telling them. But it all comes down to, can you really build 100% of what you want in your application on these lower code platforms that don't have enough support partners there for you yet?
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's kind of, we talked a little bit about this just before you joined too, where like how much are you tying yourself into with the extensibility you have at that point in time? I totally agree, right? Like especially in the very early stages, and that kind of the sweet spot where we are with coStarting right now and the cohorts we are running, it's more about just getting anything out and proving that what you're working on has value for everyone, right? And then you go from there. And if the quicker you can do that, the better. If that means you spend $50 for 1 month, that's probably fine. And then just have a strategy on that going forward. If you think this is going to be a massively scalable application used by 100 million users, then you keep that in mind. But odds are it's not going to be, right? It's just the statistics of things are like, you're probably not one of them. You might make money with it somehow, but have that kind of those steps, right? Build it as fast as possible, prove it as fast as possible, get customers, listen to them, and go from there.
Yeah, that's what we're doing actually with one gal that we're mentoring right now. We're going to start with her on purpose in Adalo, because we only need 3 core feature sets to work. And I just want her to also be able to effectively communicate that she understands her own technology, because she's not a technical founder. So we're going to spend this year doing that with her, keep a private, small, closed beta of 100 users on purpose. And then at that point, probably shift over and rebuild her in something like Bubble, get her more involved in that whole build process. We have a few mentorship bootcamp programs that will allow her to participate in structures like that. And she can kind of learn as she goes. So, we particularly looked at her application and what she's building and used it for that reference on purpose, because we thought this is the perfect use case for this, where she can learn as she goes. We can use one platform, prove the feasibilities on it, the good and the bad, and then kind of merge it and move it over into something else, and then scale the application based on that. But at least she has traction in the marketplace. she actually has a pretty good idea. Like one of the first things we did is, because with my other business, with our success, we're heavily integrated into a lot of different angels and VC groups. And so we softly vetted her out with some people and said, what do you think if we back this? And they were like, yeah, you know what? We really like it. Get something up pretty quickly as far as an MVP goes, and just get her over here and we'll see where we can go from there. So I think it has to be like a perfect blend of stuff, but you know, I've been doing this for a long time, so I know how to do things effectively in the market. And if there's not something that we're super excited about or that we feel like we can put arms and legs to, we don't really jump on a lot of stuff for that reason as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. So is that your background too, like in the kind of entrepreneurial startup founding scene?
Yeah, so I mentioned to you before that I heard you guys say something about real estate, and I thought I was on like the wrong call, so I jumped off. My partner and I have both real estate and legal and like VC backgrounds. So we used to finance a lot of large commercial real estate deals. And then a lot of those were backed by some institutional financing, but mostly private equity, family office money, and then venture capital. So probably, 12 plus years ago. And then I try not to consult on many real estate deals at all anymore that don't evolve around tech, just because it's really time consuming. So the majority of our focus is, of course, over the past decade has been on insured tech and technology in general. And then because of the networks that I'm part of, a lot of female founded networks and support groups, mentorship programs, when the lower code scene started happening, I've always been a big advocate of trying to empower a lot of these groups that are coming from lesser served communities with some cool stuff to focus on. So, a lot of the girls programs that we work on are with maybe young ladies that won't ever get to go to college. And so we've always looked at like the lower code communities and some tool sets for them as good life skills. And so used it kind of as a leaders board for that. But yeah, just always been really excited about anything in the technology space. So I can do anything from the really complicated stuff all the way down to the lower to no code stuff too. So it's just been really interesting seeing what's been happening in the past, let's call it 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, it's quick.
And how much stuff is coming up. And, we stay on top of it. We see updates every week with new stuff. And we're like, oh, that's great. And then the better part of it now is they're getting funding a lot quicker, much easier. So they're able to scale and they're able to offer more of a wide range of varieties, if you will, to startups than I feel like, Bubble was ever able to do 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. I had a conversation earlier with someone about, the passion economy in general, right? And I think there is, like he said it nicely, there's a couple big names, right? And we talk about them all the time. Li Jin with her new fund, for example. But this is like such a new space still that there's so much room, right? And I mean, yes, you have all of these YouTube creators, and me and my wife just joined that community, which I talked about earlier, which is the thing we launched today, right? Little wins. But there's so much more to do, and with all of these tools now at the disposal without necessarily college education or any education for that matter, if you just focus on what you like and what you want to do, I think we had this over the last, maybe 5 to 10 years or so with all of these coding boot camps, which gave people, a different track into programming. Right. And now it's even more accelerating, right? Where, okay, if you're a more business person, you don't need to know how to code, but I 100% agree with you. Like with your example of the mentee you have, you need to know your tech though. At the very least, your feature sets, what are you building? How does it work?
Well, she's also going to stay a solo founder. Like I'm going to help her with the tech, but I'm so busy that we're a minor investor in her. And so I may bring her on at some point to talk to you guys, but because she's going to stay a solo founder and she wants to stay a solo founder, look, there's nothing wrong with that. If she goes and gets users, she'll get people interested in funding her. That's literally all you need after you prove the technology works is go acquire users. So at that point, she should at least know, for an example, like I created a map for her and showed her why just plugging in text messaging and SMS and AI on top of whatever it is she thinks we're going to build for her is not as simple and as inexpensive as she thinks. And she was like, oh, I would have never thought of it. She's in all these young VC groups now that I introduced her to. And there's a lot of really young students in there, and they're all very smart, and they're all pitching her very quickly. What if you did this? What if you did that? And I said, that's fine. Put everything in writing and map out exactly how you think it's all going to look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go draw little lines and show you how much it's going to cost you. Yeah. And then a day later, she comes back and she's like, forget everything I just told you yesterday. So at the end of the day, she doesn't fully understand it. So I think for two reasons. One, if she's determined to stay a solo founder, she needs to be able to understand those things that are pretty simple to adhere onto. But also, if she wants to convince somebody that she's investable, that's going to be another part of it. So, we hit that stuff pretty early on. We're like, look, we want to mentor you and then kind of let you run with your own stuff. And this is the reason why. So like the other thing I was going to mention is going back to something like softer.io. It's super simple. It's simple, drag and drop. There's literally nothing to it. It would be, and right now they're starting to move into like membership programs, meaning somebody can set up different user profiles. So I think one example Miriam used is somebody could teach a class on there or like a boot camp, and different users could log on. They don't have a lot yet in space of like templates and like a community out there yet, because they literally just received their first round of VC funding. So they are very early on after she left their accelerator program. But that's a good example of something that is it's almost no code to the point where anyone could use that. Mm-hmm. Whereas like you can't really jump in and go in and use things like even Squarespace is a good example. I built stuff on Squarespace for my business partner, and she's still struggling to go in and make changes for herself. So, it just depends on what platforms you build it on. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool, interesting stuff. And I like what you guys are doing here. This is cool. I hopefully can jump in a few more times over the next month or two as we're helping Kat build out her stuff, and maybe bring her on at some point to see if once she's ready, if you guys have any insight, feedback, and even if it's all positive, like, hey, you guys are right on the same track, but if there might be some relationships there, whatever else might be able to help her, that would be cool as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I think so. Again, right, this Tuesday at noon is just the informal kind of, noon Eastern, informal get together for the community. It's still, as a community, we're still young as well, and sure. So sometimes it's 2 people, sometimes I think most of the time so far we had 4 or 5, and this is for anyone who just wants to talk about this stuff, right? I think especially now in our remote first world,
right,
there is a lot of things getting lost, right, interpersonally. So I think this is just super fun for me, and I thought it could be for others. So and then beyond that, of course, you saw what we were doing with the coStarting cohorts and all of that. If you have anyone interested in that, or who might just be benefiting from being in it's more of an accountability peer group kind of thing, right, with a specific set goal. So far, all of it's a top row for me. Justin, Emmy, and Steve were in the first cohort. So
yeah, I think
a bit more about the experience, but
she would be a great fit for the second one. She's in the YC Sprint program right now for like the next 4 weeks, and she's also working a full-time job. She's also out on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast, so we're kind of hurdling a couple things where, like, by the time she can ask me for an hour of my time, I'm booked up every night with stuff we have going on typically, because I have programs that are Central European programs, and then we do Eastern Standard Time as well. And I think when she's done with that, we also, at that point by, let's call it May, should hypothetically have like an MVP for her, so I can have her dive in and maybe do like a second cohort, and maybe we even only build a few very simple things and let her kind of learn some things during that whole process as well. But that was one reason I was interested in finding out more about it and kind of jumping on, just to give you more about my background and how involved I am with certain things, but also to kind of give you some framework to where, this might be something that's really cool for her, just because she absolutely could use more mentors, more help. We can give her advice and take her so far, but I think there's a lot of people in the community that can add value to her as well.
Yeah, I agree. And this is interesting for us to see too, right? As we build this community and see what the individuals want and need. I think building these relationships to organizations such as yours are going to be very interesting, because that is going to get us even more diversity into these pools of people who are just starting these conversations. So far, we have the launch track cohort, right? We're thinking about making that more specific, going forward, like having different tracks.
I was just going to say the one thing, not to cut you off, I have to jump really quick, but the one thing that I think that some of these groups are not necessarily doing, and this isn't a bad thing, but they'll have like boot camps and they'll have people trying to build anything in it. We stay, although I can build anything, she's the only one really that I'm doing a social app for. And outside of that, our stuff is strictly insured tech, fintech, ed tech, and med tech, mostly on the insurance and the fintech side. But I think it would be cool if you had subject matter experts in some of these little build out groups, just to be able to add. It takes me, it might take me more than 10 minutes, but hypothetically, it would take me one conversation to figure out what to use and what not to use, right? Yeah. If you have other people like me in there that can sponsor and co-sponsor those cohorts, that's a really great thing for the build community.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm exploring right now. Actually, I had 2 conversations today, one with on the legal side, one with the sales and marketing side. And then, like going forward, they might be kind of more paid cohorts at that point, because depending on the individuals, on the domain expert, they might be free, they might not.
Right.
But I think that's fine, because what I would love this to be is something where the individual founders can plug in these, 1 month, like low commitment kind of cohorts, get access to the knowledge they need at this stage of their business, and then, move on, right? And maybe skip 5 of them, because that's what they're naturally good at. They don't have to go to a 3 months or 6 months.
You could have them select the tracks that they need. Like not everybody might need that legal or that marketing expertise. The other side of it is even like what Bubble has done. Like Bubble has its own community, and so does Adalo, where they have tutorials up online. Yeah. But Bubble has people that have been with Bubble from the beginning that are doing paid boot camps now, like 8-week boot camps, and people do pay to be inside of them, and Bubble doesn't get that money. It's the instructor. But they built out that community for people like that to exist.
Right. Yeah. So very similar to that. Yeah. This is cool. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
Let's definitely keep the conversation going.
I will. I've got to run, but I'll try to meet back up with you guys maybe at some point, like next month or something, just to kind of find out what's new. And if you need anything in the meantime, let me know. But if not, then I'll check back in like a month or so.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ramona.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so that's just you guys were super quiet because we were both super fast talkers, I think. Lots to cover there.
I had my hand up for a while.
So that's interesting. I saw that pop up, but I also saw that like pop up in past meetings a lot, where I think people thought this might be to wave or something. What was that?
What is she? So she run like an accelerator or an incubator, and she hooks people up with like some type of beginning funding after a concept is proven, or no?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So we just connected on Twitter. I'm not sure like what her day job would be, kind of, but. It sounds like that, yeah. From her background, it sounds like she's probably involved in some sort of, more local accelerator type of thing, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like she's investing too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I wanted to ask her what she's having that girl Kat focus on, given she doesn't have a technical background. What is her focus? Daily. Is it just getting users? Sales, marketing. What does she have her working on? So that's something I wanted to ask, but maybe I'll link up with her.
Yeah. And it sounds like, so this is actually interesting. We have tried to connect for 3 weeks now, almost.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, actually 3 weeks. And it that like schedules don't work out, but clearly she thought there was something worthwhile, because she, remember you weren't there last week, I think, Steve, but she hopped in last week and we were talking about real estate. So she's like, well, this is not, I think I'm in the wrong place. So she left. But yeah, no, I love it. I love it. It seems to be working, right? People seems to be noticing what we're doing, and it try to help, right? Like try to connect, and that's all we can ask for right now. I think that's very powerful. If as we build out the network more, I'm super curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, it definitely will branch out and get more interesting. And you'll have more availability for, like she said, having people hop on with a certain expertise once in a while. Like her, that was cool. Hop on for like half hour, and you'll field some questions for people.
Yeah. So like actually, since we talked on Friday, I guess, about the peer group, I kind of try to think about what you said with, like having a more sales or kind of focus on how do we get now from our MVP to our first sale. And so this morning I talked to Elliot, who I have been working with in the past, and he is that sales and marketing kind of expert, right? And we only had 30 minutes, but exploring on if there is potential for him to become one of those experts. And then I don't know what that would look like yet, if that would be that sales track cohort, or if that would be just like a general mentorship, like, or a coStarting experts kind of thing where certain people commit to just be in the ecosystem and being open to be reached out to. Like that's the kind of tracks I'm exploring now. Same thing with that legal expert. So that legal actually is more on the trademark and IP side.
Oh, cool. All right.
And I reached out to him because he gets it. Like I worked with him in the past a lot. He's from Chicago, and he just has the same mindset, right? He is like very much helping people first. Instead of saying, it's like, okay, well, let's get on a consultation call, right? Here's my hourly rate. So he like, right now I'm looking for these people I have in my network who understand the value of helping early stage founders. And if you become valuable, then naturally you are going to be the first choice as, a service provider for these startups when they need it, right? And
right. So it's like kind of like finding that balance where you're not inundating them so much, but it's more like, come on, hop on for a little bit, and then maybe later on they'll agree to, if it's a good fit for both of you. Right. They'll go along, something more permanent.
Right. Or develop these maybe founder-friendly packages, right? So for a trademark, it's pretty simple to think about, like, okay, and I don't know, I'm making up numbers, but let's just say he would have a special offer for coStarting where for a standard letter-based trademark, like a word or 2 words or whatever, it's $2.99, right? Oh, yeah. And flat rate, so you can what's going on, and he will walk us through, and this is the wealth of knowledge we're building over time, right? And have this in public being kind of the lead magnet for you to come in to coStarting, to this community, and having access to these founder-friendly resources. I think they're of course out there, they're everywhere, but it's, for me, I think it was always important to have someone who shares the values of the individuals, especially early stage, and just wants to be of value, right? Like you say this all the time, Steve, right? So just be valuable, and then the business will follow.
Yeah, you're just planting seeds for yourself, down the line, those are going to be harvested eventually.
Right. What was that face, Emmy, earlier? What happened? Something happened outside the window?
An iguana in the coconut tree.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Still there?
Yeah, he's up there. That's why I'm very distracted, like looking over every 3 seconds.
Do you see it, Steve? I can't see it.
Small boy.
Which window? Left, right?
Does it bite?
Probably.
I wanted to ask you guys if you had any experience with streaming software. I don't know I feel like we talked about this before, but
I think we had a conversation on Twitch that was unrelated, though.
Right. So, but not the platform, but a software to help make the streams better, right? Because I think, again, this is kind of a communal meet. That's fine. But for these cohort check-ins with sharing the slides, sharing live demos, having comments, a richer experience would be better. what I got recommended from someone I know who runs a co-working space is StreamYard. And that looks already pretty promising, but it has the highest tier has a limit of 8. Wait, where did I see this now? Oh, 10 participants on screen. Oh, on screen. Well, maybe that just means 10 tiles.
Right.
There's a somebody showed me this one platform called AirMeet.
That sounds
Check
familiar.
it out. It's like you can have like a full conference and people can go to different tables and like branded tables. And have about different topics.
Yeah, what you definitely want to do here as things grow is ensure that you can have that unified look and feel without having to, when the presenters present, to not rely on either locally sharing a screen with the presentation because they're all going to look different, like in the case of ours, or you having to do it and having to always hear the, okay, next slide.
Right. Yeah, and I think, I don't like, so where did it go? StreamYard seemed to have some of this where you can have at least multiple, you have already the screen shares open of all of the people, and then like the facilitator controls which one shows, right? So if we all had a presentation, we can also already start sharing, and then the facilitator switches over to whoever is next, and then you already have control, so that there's a smoother transition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that seems interesting. I did find one, like, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of open source. So I always, if I find a tool which I like, then I'm like, open source alternatives to StreamYard. It doesn't work so well because there's like a gazillion websites out there which just 10 alternatives for.
You would think that there would be integration between like a Google Meet and slides to where you would have that one slide being shared, and then maybe when whoever's presenter would be able to move between the slides as opposed to everyone, or even if it's everyone, it's kind of a trust system. But some type of integration there to where then it's all, again, unified and an easy look instead of switching between the shares.
Right. So Streamlabs OBS seems like, or Streamlabs in general, seems to be open source. But that seemed a bit more rich. Like it's more of a, I think Streamlabs fine, but then they have like almost like a broadcasting tool in the background or something. I don't know. This is like a new world for me, so it's pretty interesting. It's more for creative streamers, musicians or something, right? Like that's the main use case, I think. Well, we have 2 viewers on our stream right now, so wherever you are.
Hello.
So what do you guys, Justin, what's holding you back right now? Anything, or is it going smooth sailing on your projects?
No smooth sailing here. Been consumed here with what I guess I would call and refer to my side job that's paying the bills all week long. For probably the last week, been recording much more time than I normally do. So not complaining because of the hours I get paid for, but it definitely puts everything else, gives them a back seat.
Right.
Cool.
So I really haven't touched the project in a few days now.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually might be picking up another contract here with billflow.io. So they do like it's basically like a UI UX overlay for Stripe to like easily create billing pages, like embeddable billing pages.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I had a meeting with them yesterday, so they might want me to hop on just to help out with support and stuff. I got the a portion of that that podcast automation thing to actually upload to my my community.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool.
I meant to ask on whenever it was that you demoed that, what is EngagePad? What's the technology stack?
It is using React, and then it's hosted on the kid who helped me build it on his server right now. I used a API, and a podcast search engine API, as like the whole, because it's like over like 1 million podcasts on this API. Like anybody, you could search anything, any type of podcast.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm not sure what like you were looking for in terms of.
No, I just see that you're using React and.
Yeah, it looked like a React template, like a SAS template, and then he just plugged in what my wireframes were, and then we talked about the whole user flow. So the next step for that would be to, like I said, I'm gonna make these things into like their own standalone little apps, and then eventually try to garner enough users and then put it under one roof of EngagePad.
Mm-hmm.
So the next step for like each BabbleBox and this automation tool would be to set up the landing page, get the have the whole user picks their subscription level, unlocks a certain feature set, pays this amount each month. So having the whole Stripe backend and landing page and the application speaking to itself, I guess, is the next step for both of these.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up with like, what am I going to charge for, and the whole business model of each, which I kind of have a little bit of a sense of, but just, I got to put a little more thought into that.
Yeah. Well, I like the name EngagePad.
Yeah, I got lucky with that. I'm not sure how I remember you said, how'd you get that?
Yeah, it's true. That's a pretty good name.
Yeah.
That I signed up for 2 services. You guys know them probably. What is it called? I can never remember names of things. Why is that so hard? Life's hard, guys.
Who am I?
Yeah, I gotten better at people's names at least. Oh, Ungrabbed. Ungrabbed is one which sends you a daily email with like a couple of neat domains. They're basically a reseller. And then there's one on Twitter, which is free, which just tweets about them. But they're gone like instantly.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to see if I can sell a couple, because I just got some that are just hanging around and just like I don't use them anymore.
Yeah,
What you got for sale?
Weird
It's
box.
auction off right now.
It's
a
not.
live auction here to the streamers.
Not sure what I got. I got the burger. Weird box, not spelled W-E-I-R-D, but W-E-E-R-D. Something else. Something
Go
weird.
after weedbox.com and let them know for the misspellings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a bunch too. I just bought buddy.so the other day.
Oh,
as
nice.
an extension for IndieBuddy.
Oh, I got and I forgot I bought it. I got Indie Audience, so that was pretty cool. Did you get?
That is nice.
Did you get IndieBuddy.com?
Yeah.
Or IO? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang. That's nice.
Yeah, right. Like that's why I was sitting there at lunch when I had the idea for the project, and I was like, "Well, shit, the .com. I have to buy that."
Yeah.
So on that note, actually, I have a call here in an hour and 15. I think I mentioned it before, right? With a gentleman from WeWork. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
to explore if there is any interest for some tool like this for the community. I think it would be great for now, especially with a big community like they have, to facilitate in the remote world, right? For a co-working space like this. So I don't know what I'm imagining. The impact is kind of terrible with COVID for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, but on the flip side too, shortly, or I think it's already happening, is people are getting sick of remote working from home and want to go out. I mean, I've even seen like the Red Roof Inn providing day rates to go and work from. I mean, it might be for a different reason, but under the guise though of
yeah, what's your business is the question.
right, yeah, hourly rates, not day rates.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah. So and I think they might have an uptick here, if not already, soon.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it does. Like, I mean, I don't understand that. I think it's more of a, well, for a lot of people, they're not used to this, right? Like, I've been working remote for years, but like the interpersonal connection is what goes missing. So is going anywhere is already helpful. And again, I think just having more facilitation to connect with people on a meaningful level is something which we'll see much more of, right? There's so many of these matchmaking sites, not dating related now, right? Where Lunch Club is like basically like Indie Buddy. So I'm kind of looking forward to explore what the niche might be. I actually just applied for OpenAI with Indie Buddy as the project, because I would love to really create quickly, automatically meaningful connections, right? And of course, how it works right now with skills and weaknesses that only gets you so far. And I got a bunch of feedback from people on that already, but it'd be cool if we could just plug in all of your platforms. Like, say you put in your Twitter handle, put in your LinkedIn profile, maybe if you have a blog, and then GPT-3 just goes over it and knows you. It's also scary, but then you can get a good match, right? Hopefully. I've never used it, so I don't know how easy to use GPT-3 is, but people say it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so hopefully I'll get access.
Yeah, I did read an article recently that said that they put GPT-3 to use for a like a depression chatbot, and it said its first answer was to commit suicide. So I think it still has some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, if it's optimized for efficiency, right, that might be.
Just cut right to the chase.
Yeah. It's like, all right, Justin, so we looked over your profile. I mean, we can extend it, but it's inevitable. Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Kill yourself.
Well, I mean, in a way, don't misunderstand me here, so bear with me, but in a way that's kind of refreshing to see that the machine just doesn't understand everything yet, right?
Yeah, all the worries there of Elon Musk and others that are giving all the dire warnings about AI.
I mean, it is pretty scary if you looked at the projects they did with the OpenAI so far. I mean, heck, man, some of the stuff is pretty darn impressive, I have to say. And again, I have no idea how it works, but
I haven't explored it, but copy.ai is pretty cool from what I hear.
Yeah, I think Sasha tried to use it, if not that similar tools for his copywriting. He ran into a bit of a snag with English not being his first language and copywriting not his preferred skill. But he said it didn't really work for him so well. So that'd be interesting to understand why and what he tried. So what's the plan for this week, everyone?
I have the dust settle here with my side gig and get back into the swing of things. And since actually all of us here were on cohort 1, I think Sven was mentioning before you joined, Steve, that all of us are signed up here for the peer group.
Yep.
And to confirm too, that'll be Wednesdays at 7 as opposed to Fridays.
Correct. Yep. So if I'll set it up for tomorrow, I'll see if you guys are good with starting tomorrow already. We will. Otherwise, next week's fine, I think, too. Or we could just get together tomorrow for the first session and kind of decide on a format or how you guys want me to facilitate. Like I was mentioning earlier, also, I think I'll try kind of bringing in, like, maybe it's going to sound wrong, but maybe lower level experts. Like
no, that's good. Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to afford like the Peter Thiels of the world probably, but someone who just has done it before, right? Yeah. Whatever that may be. And I think if we can get together in these peer groups and if we see there is, a common thread on some of these things, like if all of you say, hey, yeah, I would love to have like a little bit of support on, a cold emailing or something, we'll find someone for that, right?
Yeah. Like
not sure how sustainable that will be, but
yeah, like someone who just, maybe they're tweeting about their recent, growth. They've been building for a while, and then now they hit that point where they're at that they found some growth, some traction, and what they do, that'd be great, that at that stage.
And of course, this goes for you guys too, right? If you know someone who you think would be great to have, just join one of those peer group sessions. If you know them personally or just through your network, anyone who you think would help the others or yourself, I think that's the format, right? That's where we bring them in. Or of course on these VCM meetings too, but VCM meetings. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be fun. And fully automated Stripe integration and everything for the peer group sign up already. Love it.
And the coupon codes.
So I do hope, so my goal, my desire and hope for this group for you guys is that we really get it to, in these 2 months, right, which we have now as a minimum trial period, I think, get to the level where that is one of the most valuable moments in your week, right, for these projects, whatever project you're using the peer group for, I think. And so all I'm asking is basically just be brutally honest about what works and what doesn't work. You can be that directly on these calls or just send it to me, right? Or hop on a call with me. And then we adjust as quickly as we can. So I think I look at this first peer group, just like the first cohort, as a quick experimentation grounds, right? We'll figure out what works and what doesn't, and then we'll have you guys up and running in no time and helping each other. And then we can ask questions like, okay, are we going to keep this at the 4? Is this, private group, or are we going to open this up for people to apply to join it? Are we going to live stream it? Are we not? Are we going to keep it closed? I think those are all the decisions you guys will have to make together. But yeah, that's what I'm here for. So I'll ask the questions, you just need to answer.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, we're coming on to an hour. I'll give you guys your days back, but I love these calls. So super fun
cool.
Kind of break in the day, in my opinion. And
yeah, likewise.
All right. Well, talk to everyone soon. Tomorrow, maybe.
Yep, tomorrow. I'll send everything out tonight, probably, and we'll see if we can get it started this week. Otherwise, we're all on Slack, of course. So keep posting your updates. Also, get back to tweeting about the stuff you're working on, guys. Not much coming out of your corners these days. Emmy just tweeted earlier, I think.
I just went on my Twitter for the first time in a week.
Yeah, see?
All right.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Thanks for being here.
All right.
See you.
Bye.